Hello Dabblers, JP here with round 2 for the ConVic tournament report. So if you're interested in seeing how this all pans out in the final day with the big battles, then watch on. So it's day 2 of ConVic, a tournament that happened at the end of August, and I did say that by splitting it up, I would always take longer, and by putting them into one tournament report I can get through it faster, but guess what, it just didn't happen anyway. So here we are, it's November, and I'm finally releasing this, but, you know, better late than never. So here is the tournament report for day 2. So what ConVic is special about, which is being held here in Melbourne, in Australia, is that across the 2 days of this tournament, you have different points levels. Day 1, 1995 points, 4 games. Quite exhausting. Of those games, I won 1 and lost 3. So not great, but you know, at least I won 1. The list kind of works, but I do see some of the weaknesses coming through, particularly with my choice of approach to the goblins. Day 2, 2300 points. Get a few more toys to play with, and it's only 3 games. A bit easier on the brain, because I don't find that the difference between the points levels is not that much. It's a couple extra units. And in my case, I was trying to paint up units that were quite easy to paint. So I was introducing things like a troop of this, an extra model. Just, you know, very small additions that didn't take much extra painting, because I was already very much getting close to that deadline. But then what they have extra was a few, you know, tweaks to the tournament package. They had excellent prize support, stuff like prizes that you really wanted to get, and it was just a great environment. And I think I've already mentioned that in the first one, but it is being held at a bowls club, so it was pretty chill. There was a kitchenette, there was some snacks on the display, there was drinks to purchase, a bar, at least on the Saturday. So it was ultimately a very, very good tournament to be at. And it's been 2 years delayed, obviously, because of, well, the whole pandemic thing, but here we are, and we finally get to do it. So now it's day 2, and in day 2, so if you haven't watched the day 1 footage, you will have noticed that most of it was done with an action cam, where I would, you know, kind of pause at key moments and provide some audio description. Whereas I endeavored to do that for this day as well, but I only managed to get it for the first round, because then it ran out of battery. Because what I thought I had plugged in to charge didn't charge at all. You know, some of those USB ports don't provide charge to certain things. Anyway, whatever happened, it didn't charge overnight, and so I had to go to the old tried and tested method of taking pictures with your phone, which I know some people actually will prefer, and I think that's the way I will go forward with tournaments, because the action cam is definitely a lot of editing involved in trying to get that all up to speed. Whereas once I get all those pictures sorted into a slideshow, I merely need to just talk my way through it, push through, and finish talking about it all, and then it's done. Whereas when I have my action cam footage, it takes a lot more editing. It's quite fun, but only really with the first video, and then after that you just start getting a bit annoyed. So anyway, that's what we'll have. You have round 1 will be with the action cam. And for those that don't like it, apologies. For those that do, well, you're welcome. And then we'll go back to our standard slideshow viewing that we're all very familiar with, because that is the good default for all kinds of tournament reports. But yeah, so we've got the tournament report, 3 games to get through. Let's see how I go. So this is what my 2300 points of legal goblins looks like. Legal because it now can have 3 kings. So a lot of this is very familiar compared to my previous list at 1995 on day 1, and so the stuff that's the same is like the 3 hordes of trolls, the 2 hordes of rabble, and then the big rock throwers, the kings. So I have a king with Jarrah's Pendant and Sacred Horn, a king upgraded to Grony Snark, and then there's the king that's also in the Gorp's Explodomatic Bang Sticks formation. I also have a Troll Bruiser with the Staying Stone. I have 2 Wingets now, a Gruplong now, and the Fleabag Riders, all part of that formation. Fantastic formation. Then, what's new, so if we really want to compare it, is because I have a Lugget Gang troop with Skirmisher's Boots. So I partly included that because I wanted to try out Skirmisher's Boots with the Lugget Gang, because it just seems like a great idea. They're quite a nice little berserker unit, but also it's really easy to paint up just like 6 fanatics and stick them on a base. So that was also a very easy thing to do. Because really, maybe ideally I wanted like a regiment, but you know, it's just more, and it was getting really close to the deadline, so I'm like, no, need to be easy. Then I also have the Goblin Blaster, because it's actually really cheap and has a lot of potential that just scares your opponents. So that was a nice way to just enhance the list by having something that's like, this could do a lot of damage, but probably won't, but you gotta always worry about it, and so that's why it's part of the list, is to help the list do a bit of damage and a bit more threat. And then finally, an extra Winged was also included, because they're just great. You know, they have synergy with the big rocks throwers by being able to be eye in the sky, but they're just very good for getting objectives when I remember to use them for that, and not to get too carried away with trying to get, throw some bombs at things, because that's always a temptation. Is just to be like, oh, what if I fly over here and I can get some cheeky shots off, and then maybe I'll kill that individual. It's just, you got to avoid that temptation. So yeah, that's the list, and I was still enjoying it by this day, because it was still always doing the thing. I think the best part is that Gorps with Explodomatic Bang Sticks always get their value. Like, they always get to charge something, they always get to do some damage, and you always have some fun. The rest of the army, I think the thing that was constantly disappointing me the most was maybe the trolls, because I have so much investment in trolls. I'm finding it's hard to get my return on investment from them. Because yes, they're durable, but their damage output is hitting on 4s is not reliable. And so yeah, while the Fleabag Riders are really good because they do also hit on 4s, but they have elite, and then they have exploding hits, and then they have the Thunderous 2, and they have Vicious, so like they actually get a lot of damage through, whereas the Trolls just have basic troll attacks, and I'm finding it's just not, it's not something to rely on. So I'm thinking in future maybe some Mincer Mob or something like that, but for now, this is what we got, and so we're going to finish off this tournament with this list. And so let's go into my first opponent's list. So my first opponent for the day, and I guess the round 5 opponent, here we are, is Damo and his Free Dwarfs. And so he has 2 regiments of Rangers, one of which has been upgraded to Hernius' Handpicked Rangers. So that gives them Stealthy and Elite, which is a nasty combination. I won't be shooting them very much, but the Elite's definitely going to hurt me. Then we have 2 regiments of Brock Riders, and they are designed to hurt. One's got the Brew of Strength, one the Brew of Sharpness. You know that whatever they hit they're gonna plow right through. So the idea is I won't let that happen. I really will try and not let that happen. And one of them's got Pathfinder upgraded, so that's the Brew of Strength one. Then we have 2 hordes of Earth Elementals, just standard, but they're pretty good already, they're not too bad at all. And then we have 1 Iron Belcher Cannon, just a little bit of range pressure. Then we have 2 greater Earth Elementals to go also with those Earth Elementals, and one of those has been upgraded to Kragoth and Colarm, which is a cool little upgrade that allows one to become a spellcaster. So it has Fireball, 10 I think, and it also has Scout and Inspiring Self, so it can kind of go off on its own, and being a bloody defense 6 fearless creature, really doesn't care what it's doing on its own. So the idea is just not to get it too overwhelmed. But yeah, so that's Kragoth and Colarm. Definitely a cool model he had as well, because the idea is that you have a caster at the bottom, and so there's there's a caster and his greater Earth Elemental going around stomping shit and burning stuff. So yeah, that's Kragoth and Colarm, and it was really cool. I'd never seen this unit before, but I would take it if I was doing Free Dwarfs, that's for sure. Then we have some Stone Priests, 2 of them, but quite different tasks. So one Stone Priest is just got Bane Chant 2 and Conjure Staff, so and they both come with Surge, obviously. So that's pretty standard. The other Stone Priest has the Wings of Honey Maze, so he can fly around, and Alchemist's Curse 3, which is actually quite a nasty combination, as I was to find out, because with this upgraded Alchemist Curse, you add the defense stat to how many dice you're rolling, and then it's piercing 4. Ooh, that does a lot of damage. And the Wings of Honey Maze really helps him get around to actually cast it, because it hasn't got the longest range, so you need to get quite close. And so this is a pretty cool little combination where he just goes around and just melts something. And so you'll see, I'll get quite surprised when it starts melting things, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize. Just, gotta watch out, because he's not going to charge you, but he only needs to get within 12 inches with his 10-inch move to start melting you. And then finally, to finish off the list, we have a Berserker Lord on Brock with Blade of the Beast Slayer. So he's, obviously just to put a bit more damage into various things. So it's, it's a pretty imposing list. There's quite a lot of unit strength, as to be expected from Dwarfs. But then also, quite a bit of Defense 6, but then also a lot of Defense 4, but very punchy stuff. So for round 5, the scenario was Smoke and Mirrors, which is an atypical scenario to get at these tournaments because it's got bluff tokens in it, and not everyone has bluff tokens, and not everyone has usually the mental energy to undertake such a scenario that usually. Because it's a scenario, you put them all down face down, and then you got to turn them up as the game goes along, and some are worth 0, some are worth 1, and 1 is worth 2. And you got to put them and have an idea of how you're going to get to them. And so this is generally considered a lot of effort, but it is actually quite fun, so I'm happy to see it. And since it was at the start of day 2, where the coffee at least is kicking in, and if anyone's got a hangover, hopefully it's starting to go away. So it's a good scenario. And so my plan is usually to, now especially I have really fast things, 2 of them, the wingets, is to put some tokens where I can get them with my wingets, and they can just sit there and stay there, and that's perfectly good use of my wingets. So that's my plan here, is to place some tokens around. So let's get into the deployment. So what I have here, obviously, is the fast half of my army. So that's the 2 wingets, one on the right, one on the left, on the giant birds, the crows. Then I have in the middle the bang sticks, with the one on the right being the one with Strider, so it has the little banner on top of the hill, and the other one on the left, no item at all. And in between them is Grupp Longnail, who's the smaller character there, and the King on Fleabag, who must go with this formation, otherwise it just won't work. Then moving along to the left, we can see that I have some of my artilleries. That's right down at the bottom. You can't really make it out, but those 2 bases down there, that's the artillery, my big rock throwers, trying to have a vista of the whole battlefield, except for that bloody blocking terrain right in the middle, and the hill. So really what they're hoping to do is take some shots on maybe some of the Brock Riders, but you'll see that Demos deploy them quite well. And then on that token there, that I don't know what that token is, there's the blaster. So my Goblin Blaster, to keep it with the creepy tone, is actually a corpse cart being pushed by 2 unfortunate ogre models that I happen to have lying around, that I then kind of cut their faces off and put really creepy kind of moon gongs that you get on one of the banners, like one of the musicians. Anyway, one day I'll showcase this whole army, but that I had a conversion there, so that's why it's got 2 ogres pushing a corpse cart, because that's why it's actually a blaster. And then you can also see the goblin horde, rabble horde, and a troll horde there on the left. So this is still quite in the center of the battlefield. Now looking up, because this is the way I happened to sweep the camera around while I was wildly gesticulating, we can start to see Damo's deployment. And so immediately on the right, I'll draw your attention to the 2 regiments of Brock Riders. So there's one on the far right, and there's one that's more towards the middle, that's just sitting behind that forest. So those are arrayed against my bang sticks, and I'm quite confident here because my bang sticks are way faster than Brock Riders, so I know I can get the first shot in. So it's just, I got to make that shot count and get rid of them, and so that is going to be the tricky part, because I can't let them hit back. Even after being disordered, they will still hit very easily, hard enough to destroy my bang sticks, so I need to take them out on my charge. So then moving along to the left, you can just see at the back there, on the difficult terrain, that smudge, there's a cannon. So that cannon's there just to shoot mostly at my trolls, but also whatever else is available. And then there is the Berserker Brock Lord, that's kind of just sitting there by himself next to that token on his side, which I believe I made the 1-point token. I can't really remember. And then there's one of the greater Earth Elementals that isn't upgraded, and then there's the standard Earth Elementals there next to the house. And then, moving the camera a bit more, we can finally see the rest of my army that's arrayed against his army. So you can see all the rangers there, those regiments of rangers. One's in the forest, one is not. Around them are the 2 different stone priests that he has, one with the Alchemist Curse and one that has the Bane Chant. And I can't remember which one was which, and I think at one point he was moving them around and he's like, oh, hang on, they're the other way around. Oh no. And I was like, that's okay, just move the one that you plan to go there, because yeah, the one's got Wings of Honey Maze, so he can kind of get wherever he needs to pretty quickly. And I think he just started picking. That's the problem. You can't really tell them apart as 2 stone priests. But yeah, they did look different, but it's just, I think over the course of the game we just kind of forgetting. But in the end, it all worked out. And then you can see right at the back there, which I think is a bit too far back, and we decided that was the case, some other Earth Elementals. And they're quite far back, because obviously you can see that 3 units have scattered up, and one of those is on the far left there. He's almost halfway up. That is Kragoth and Colearm. So he has Scout. He is Movement 6, so he's just trundled right up to pretty much that's the halfway line right there. And so already going forward. And I think the whole idea is because he's defense 6 and fearless, he doesn't really care, so he can really push out this far without consequence. And I think the idea is to threaten the flanks, especially because he's still surgeable and he does have surge on both the Stone Priests. And so my forces arrayed against him is the other half of my, I guess, anvil kind of aspect of my army. So you can see that horde of rabble right there. They're flanked by my Goblin Bruiser, which is played by Throg, the former Throg model. You can see a troop of fanatics there, so that's that is the troop of Luggets, and behind them are all the trolls, lots of trolls. And right in the middle of my army I have my Groany Snark ready to go out and hit something. I'm not really sure what I'm going to hit with him, because he's, there's a lot of high defense targets, and there's not really any easy way to get to his individuals, but I'll think of something. Whatever he hits, he usually does a lot of damage, so he's usually quite fun to use. So yeah, that's the deployment here, and you can see tokens are everywhere. Which ones are zeros, which ones are ones, which ones are twos? Well, we'll just have to find out and see if I can remember, but it'll be pretty apparent once we get to the end, that's for sure. So let's get into the first turn. Turn 1 goes to me, and I take no time at all to get on top of this hill with all my cavalry so that I can look at those brocks and watch where they're going and hit them. So at this point, when I put them on top of the hill, I'm already in range of a charge for where they are currently. So that's including the ones that were behind the forest, if they were to move anywhere into the forest, as well as those ones right at the back of the board. So it's kind of just like getting up there and being able to see them, because you've got to be able to see them to charge them. So yeah, pretty happy with being able to do this without any consequence, because the cannon can't see me because of the forest, which is nice, because these guys definitely can't handle being shot. No way. And as planned, there's the Winged, all going off on his own mission to get to that token there next to the Brox. You see on the left hand side, that's a token. That's definitely either a 1 or a 2 pointer, and that's a guaranteed one for me as long as these Brox are no longer in the picture. So that is pretty much the entire plan. The rest of the army just is kind of moving up. It's not really going very aggressively, but that's because I'm not really sure what to do, and I don't want to move up too far because of that Kragoth and Colearm there. So I've got on top of the hill here with my Bruiser and Horde. The Bruiser's just kind of sitting there being like, you can't get the flank here, and the Rabble Horde is just there as an offering because might as well, and I need to get something up there. Ideally I want to get the trolls up there too, so move everything forward, but I just want to tentatively move there, and then, you know, if the rabble gets shot, then who minds? And you can see there against the side of that building I have just sent my little Groany Snark, and I was thinking I was real smart, because I'm like, well, no one can see him, no one can charge him, he is invincible, no one can get him here. But spoiler warning, I forgot about the guy with the Alchemist Curse and was able to fly around. He doesn't kill him, but he will he will melt him a little bit. So yeah, I totally forgot about that. In Damu's turn 1, well, one of the Brox has edged just a little bit backwards, so you can see that there. It's just gone a little bit back. It did receive a little bit of shooting, 'cause, you can see right there that little red and white cylinder that's on his side. That's how he was. It's kind of like actually a wound token, and you just can turn the numbers on the inside. It's quite cool, so you'll never accidentally knock it. The downside is I can't see it. It's always facing him, so I have to ask him how many wounds are on there, because I just really can't tell. But yeah, so that's been shot a little bit. I totally forgot about that, but he's now nudged it back out of charge range. So there's no charge in that one, but the other Brox there on the left have come into the forest, and they are challenging my bang sticks to do their worst. And they will, because I've got my Strider bang sticks. But otherwise, the rest of his army, like mine, has tentatively moved up, keeping in line with that building for the most part. Apart from here on this left flank, where everything's edging quite a bit closer. The Rangers haven't moved any further than they scouted, so that they could just start shooting. And we can see there's one wizard in front of those Rangers that's now performing an Alchemist Curse as I am speaking. Those dice he was rolling was for the Alchemist Curse onto my Groany Snark, and what that will do is just hurt him quite a bit. But you can see there, the Kragoth and Colearm model has now turned, and he's angled in such a way so that next turn he can go forwards and get a cheeky surge into the flank of my rabble. That is his aim. And I mean, you know, it's quite apparent setting that up because it's the only thing happening and he's all by himself on his lonesome out there. But you can see and this is something that Damo identified as the game was going on, is that his Earth Elemental horde is just a bit too far back, because it'd be good to have the 1-2 punch, you know? You hit first with Kragoth, he ties it up, and then in come the Earth Elementals. But right now, they're really far away, and, you know, they can't go at the double, so they're going to take a long time to get there, which is good for me, because I don't want to see them getting there anytime soon. So, yeah, this is the state of things for now, and the action is going to come real soon. Coming into my turn too, I did what most people say you shouldn't do, and that is charge in the second turn, because generally this is a bad idea and you're getting yourself into a bad position. But in a rare occurrence of some kind of insight that I put on here, I managed to protect myself from any surprise charges. So I have the Wingets protecting these bang sticks as they slammed into the first of those Brock Riders in the forest, but these guys have Strider, and so therefore ignore the effects of the forest and can take it out nice and easily. And I also have my King nearby, giving the Elite Aura, all the good stuff, and I put in Grony into the side. You can see there, because Grony, he's got 5 damage on him, and that's because of the Alchemist Curse. So that was pretty good, considering Alchemist Curse, I think it was 2 or 3, with a +4 from my defense, so most of those were successes, which is pretty crazy. So he's quite damaged, but at the same token, he can always put in a lot of damage. And I think this is where Grony shines his best, is contributing to a combat, just tilting it really far. Because if he only adds in a little bit of damage, it's fine. If he adds in a lot, that's fantastic. And I think in this case, he added a lot. But also, you can see the Bang Sticks did quite well, because they got 4 damage to themselves, which would be from their 6s. So that is 1 Brock Rider regiment down, so only 1 more to worry about. But on the rest of the battlefield, you can see those Brock Riders are now being herded and shepherded, and there's a bit of damage on them from the Wingets that are now encircling them and just chucking bombs on them. So I'm just keeping them in line and preventing them from really getting out of there. So we'll just see how long I can hold them back, but I will be able to deal with them. Next, I've got the Trolls now peeking over the hill, so you can see that they have their leader point there. They can't really see per se, because unfortunately the height of the goblins is far exceeds that of the trolls, because they're added to the hill. But at least we can now look. So if something kills the goblins, for instance, we can then charge off. But in any case, there's been damage done already to the goblins. You can see a little damage counter there, and I think that is the Kragoth Kolam, the fireball that he has. So it's already been fireballing into him, and there's been some shooting from the rangers. But we'll just have to see how long this can last. But all they're there for, these goblins, is just as a screen. Perhaps a too big a screen. Maybe next time I'll do regiments of goblins. But I do like having these nice big bases that I can make somewhat scenic. So yeah, that's my turn. I've managed to start getting rid of the Brock Riders, while everything else is just being kept at bay. Turn 2 for Damo and his dwarves, and he manages to get Kragoth and Kolam into the flank. It's a surge flank, it's crafty, it's sneaky, it's all the right kinds of things, and in it goes. You can see it right there, and it did a whole bucket load of damage. How do I know? It's because when you see one of those D20s, and then you see a D6 next to it, you know that that 20 is maxed out, and you've got some extra damage on there. So that's 23 damage on my goblins. They're 19, 21, so they are devastated, and the only way that they could possibly exist is if there was a double 1. And that was the first double 1 of this round. Poor Damo. The dice were not with him at this point. So we have that double 1. The goblins are there. They're not going to be there much longer. I don't really care. They're just there. And now I will have the ability to try and charge him in multiple ways. So I've got my Luggets nearby. I've got my Trolls here. And I've got my Bruiser over there. But most of those things can't charge immediately. But at least the Trolls can get in. So that's first plan. Then, well, looking at the rest of the battlefield, we can see that some damage has been done on various units. A bit of plink here and there, some trolls, some goblins. So it's just, you know, the fire is coming in from the rangers, from the cannon, and so it's just a bit of damage sprinkled throughout. But there's really only one other combat. You can see over there, Grony got hit by the Berserker Lord, but nothing happened there, so Grony's fine. But it's really over here that we really care, and this is the combat between the Brocks and my Winget, where they charged my Winget, and I can tell you now, that was the next double 1. Because obviously Brocks will have no problem putting the damage on there, but it all comes down to that final nerve roll, and it was painful. So turn 2 combats are definitely swinging in my favour. I could have been punished for a lot of these things, and the Winget not dying really is just Really, oh, it's not that terrible. I mean, the consequences of which they get charged. Either way, they get charged in the front by my bang sticks, but yeah, it's just not great for him. Whereas in the other case, the Kragoth and Colearm giving a flank, that's definitely not good at all. So yeah, Damo's obviously frustrated, and I am grieving on his behalf for the models that he will soon lose. So turn 3, for me, was so spectacular I forgot to film the entire thing, and turn 4. It was only at the end of the turn 4 that I realised I should start filming, and that is very unprofessional, I do apologise, but I will provide you an audiobook description which will hopefully suffice in this case. So what happened in turn 3? Well, let's start on the left hand side where Kragoth and Colearm were into the flank of my goblins. Well, the goblins ran off. Double ones, they were free to do whatever they want, and they were in charge range of the Earth Elemental Horde, and so they sprinted off down there to hold them up. This then allowed me to get the trolls in. Unfortunately, they were in the front, so they went off into the front of Kragoth, who was facing the flank of my goblins. And so the trolls went in, and I then spent the rest of the turn 3 repositioning my Luggets and my Troll Bruiser so that they could go into the flank and the rear, respectively. That is what occurred in turn 4, and that is why Kragoth no longer exists, and we now have the Luggets, the Trolls, and the Troll Bruiser facing off against the rest of the army. So that was pretty amazing. I was very happy with that because that is one tough nut to crack. Moving to the middle, not so exciting. In my turn, I moved my Trolls up a little bit, and then the Earth Elementals moved up a lot, and so my Trolls then went into the Earth Elementals, and I mispositioned poorly. I positioned poorly by putting the king in the wrong spot, and I didn't then have declared both the charges at the right time, and I felt with those double ones I couldn't do a take backsies, and it's a tournament, so I had to, I made my bed, and I lied in it, and had just one Troll Horde going into the Earth Elementals, which is definitely not enough for taking them out, but here we are. Then, the most exciting thing, which you can just see off to the right, there is no longer a greater Earth Elemental anymore, and that is with the demise of Kragoth thanks to the same bang sticks that took out the first Brock Riders. So they just marched on, and you can see Grupp there as well, Grupp along now. So together they were able to put in enough damage that had already been a damaged greater Earth Elemental thanks to my piercing shooting from my War Machines, because they could always see it. It's a very tall thing, so you can always see this guy. And so we managed to take him down. So it's all looking pretty good there. And then on there, finally, with no footage whatsoever of that final side, the other bang sticks did manage to take down the Brock Riders, and I have now left a winged over there because some of the tokens now turning over. And that's why the final Goblin Rabble Horde that you see right there at the bottom has turned slightly at an angle, because one of the tokens that I think maybe a 2-point token on my side just appeared, and so I just angled my goblins and said they're staying here. So that's why they're kind of just positioned this way. It's not because it's of any tactical advantage, it's purely for the objectives. So yeah, hopefully what I'm thinking here is that my Trolls will be able to charge into those Earth Elementals, the ones right here that aren't in combat, in the flank. But Damo has some other things in mind, because Damo is a good player, despite all the bad luck he's been getting in this game. Turn 4 for Damo proves just how much of a good player he can be, because despite being on the back foot because of those double ones that really were just not deserved, he managed to pull a trick on me. So those Earth Elementals, as I'm sure some people may have seen when I charged into them, were bait. They were put out, defense 6, they weren't going to be dead. It was very unlikely anyway, and so what that did allow is to get my Trolls into the bad position that they are in now, so that those Earth Elementals could get out of dodge, take on the other Trolls, so they've done a whole withdraw, turn, and bam, right in. And now the Rangers can flank in front my other Trolls, and so they're definitely going to be dead. So yeah, that was a very smart move. Despite the circumstances that we're in, he's still pulling out these great moves and could very well bring it back. All I've got on my side is the fact that I have one winglet that's just sitting on one objective, I have the Goblin Rabble sitting on another, and I have one free winglet that can go around and grid on any other objective that will turn over and become valuable to me. So that is what I do have in my favour. I have a lot of little scoring stuff that can just go around, and I don't really care. But he will make sure that most of my Trolls are dead. Zooming out, we can now see the other Earth Elemental Horde also getting stuck into Trolls. So it's all about Earth Elementals into Trolls right now. So we'll just have to see which ones of those survive. Turn 5, my Rabble are now facing the right way and scoring. So it is unlikely that they're going to get removed, and that's one more token that I've definitely secured. Rest of the battlefield, the trolls did die to the rangers. No surprises there. And so trying to take down some of those rangers, I've got the nimble luggets into the front, and I've got the king into the flank. Not that it really matters where he goes, but that's the case that we have here. And you can see that those earth elementals have managed to kill their trolls as well, which was very surprising. And now they're turning around to, I guess, deal with my troll bruiser. But they do want to get back to that objective over there. Meanwhile, we can see in the top right-hand corner, there's one of the bang sticks. The other one's actually dead. I think it died to the grape shot, because that cannon was still quite dangerous, and hence I then went and killed it. So the cannon is no more, and I now firmly have the backfield of the battlefield in my grasp, with wingets all over the place and these bang sticks there to hold on. I'm thinking of trying to bring them in, but in the end, is that worth it when I need to make sure that I hold some objectives? So sometimes you just got to think about the scenario. But I still could get shot because, these are rangers after all. Perhaps most interestingly, my trolls managed to kill those earth elementals. Now, they were damaged already because of the other trolls hitting them, so I guess, they were already pre-damaged, but I was very surprised that they managed to do it at all. Moving forward, with time skips worse than Season 8 of Game of Thrones, I've now jumped over to turn 6 for Damo, and, well, things haven't changed all that much. In his turn 5, he managed to kill my luggets, so hence they no longer exist next to the rangers, and so by killing those, he could then turn to face. I charged in with my king, who you can see there in combat, and so that's all well and good. Maybe the king will eventually do the job and finish them off, while the other rangers are still in combat with my trolls, who are doing very much fine. Thank you for asking. And we can see that Grupp has come along. He's got duelist, so hopefully he can take out that bloody stone priest. And my poor troll bruiser, who's over there next trying to get close to that objective, did get hunted down by the earth elementals. And so that's what's going on there. But it's all a hindered fest, so everyone's getting hindered charging into things. So I don't think anything's going to iron out too quickly. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. And so that's the state of affairs that we're in, because there's not much else left of the battlefield all that much. Moving to look a bit further out, we can see up behind the house, there's my king chasing down his the alchemist curse priest, the one that has wings of the honey maze. It's been annoying me to no end, and I've been trying to kill it, but I just really can't get it down. And so he just is still in combat and still surviving. Whereas I've made sure to put my bang sticks a bit into that difficult terrain so that they just can't be shot off by some rangers that might get out of combat. So it's just making sure that they're there and still scoring. At the end of turn 7, because there was a turn 7, we can see the state of affairs. The goblins, the rabble at the bottom, are holding one of the tokens. The Earth Elemental Horde is holding one of the other ones. But that's all his unit strength that he has on the board. So it's just whatever those Earth Elementals are holding is what he has. Because then I also have, over here, trolls holding nothing, but they survived and killed, so that's good. A little bit of attrition for me. And then, out on the sides, we can see the Winged by his lonesome. So it was really just the rabble and the Winged that were holding objectives. Because the bang sticks are gone, as you can see, because they got shot off. Because the the alchemist curse stone priest managed to take them off. He was really good the whole game. Really just doing all kinds of damage everywhere. It's a very, very good spell, even on just defense 4, because it's still good. It's only 1 or 2 dice less than what would be on defense 5 or 6. So really, it was a very close game, and it was probably those double ones right at the start. No, probably. Definitely those double ones at the start that saved me, because I was able to take advantage of those, and still I almost lost it in a few ways, like taking some bait and just not holding things back enough, and yeah, it was just generally not keeping an eye on things. You can see another wing it's gone as well, because the cannon with the grape shot was doing a fantastic job. My blaster did absolutely nothing. It's gone. I don't even know when it died. It just disappeared. It was just in the game, and then it wasn't in the game, so that wasn't great either. So there's all these things that I didn't do well, but still I managed to pull it out and get a win here. So first win of the day for day 2. Now with the big game, so it's making me feel good about my big list, and so we'll see who I go up against next. But as far as Damo is concerned, this is the second game I've had against him, and it was just as fun. The first one was with my Forces of the Abyss against his Northern Alliance, and that was the first game of Clash of Kings I had. It was very exciting. Well, not first game, but it was the first tournament. But yeah, it was still just as fun.
And unfortunately, yeah, those double ones really just like, he just rolled his eyes, but he played on. We played. He kept on pushing things in the right way, and I just got lucky. And that's really what I need to win these games. Usually is some luck, but I'll get the tactics eventually. So let's see. Let's get into the next game.
So it was also on day 2 that we had the armies on display right at the start, actually, and so I managed to get a picture of as many as I could, but sorry if I missed it. It wasn't because it wasn't good, it's just because obviously I just had a small attention span and didn't find your army, but I think I got nearly all of them. So the first one here is from one of my close gaming friends, so this is Matt, who's been in my videos with his Night Stalkers before, so if you go back, you'll find a Night Stalker battle report, and this is his second army, which are Varangur, but the Aztec Varangur, using Mythic America's range from Warlord Games. And so it's a cool range of all kinds of things. We've got these big things that represent his fallen, so they're almost like mummified Aztec trolls. You've got Jaguar Warriors for Huskarls. You've got Aztec mummified zombies for Draugr. There's a Wendigo for the Frost Giant, and there's all kinds of... And then there's these really creepy kind of bent over backward crawling spider sisters, which he uses for his snow foxes, and yeah, conclaves. There's a guy riding a giant like a jaguar there with armor on for his Frostfang Lord. It's a really cool looking army, and you can just you can see that it really just pops with all of its bright blue colors and green terrain, and yeah, it's a great looking army. It's quite fearsome to fight as well, as anyone might be familiar with when it comes to getting hit in the face with some Fallen or some Huskarls. So definitely a good looking army there. So let's move on to the next one. So next we have the clicking's not working. We have here obviously ogres, because that's what Stormcasts are really good for. So often people will be coming over to this game and they'll have their Stormcast from various box sets they may have used to get into wargaming in general, and this is a perfect example of what you can do with Stormcast, but done to such a high quality standard and executed with a fantastic color scheme in mind that really takes them past the original Stormcast look. Because Stormcast, they're pretty much fantasy Space Marines, right? And so it's lots of smooth surfaces, they're easy to paint, it's just armor, it's cloth, there's not even really any skin between these armor bits, so like what you can do with them is limited initially until here, where you can see that they've really gone crazy with all these awesome highlights and the poppin' colors of the red and the blue. So it's just a fantastic looking army. Were I to tell you what some of these units were or are, something of it, these are warrior regiments, that's pretty apparent. They're probably bullies, and then these might be shield breakers, but they don't have giant honkin' shields. And there's some guys with bows, they're shooters, perhaps, or boomers. I mean, this is the problem when it just comes to guessing what people's armies are. But once he tells you, I'm sure you'd know. And I assume this is the big deal. But what a fantastic looking army! It's yeah, it really pops as well. I was happy to get a photo of this one. Then here, well, this I know who this one's is. So some of them I'll know, and some of them I won't know. But this is Ben Rantle's goblins. And it is fantastic looking goblins. I'm running some goblins, but then I see these goblins and I'm like, ooh, these are really cool. So he's just got all kinds. You can obviously see there's some hordes of, they look like sharp sticks, but they just be rabble. Most people take rabble. You've got your bang sticks, which are over here. So they're the Fleabag Riders. This is a goblin mincer, so the mincer mob. Represented by just one big mincer, which is just this glorified crusher thing with these plumes of smoke coming out and a crazy goblin driving it. Is just so cool. And then we've got a blaster which has the Acme bomb inside a chariot, and then we've got some giants, we've got actual wingets, and there's a slasher. You don't see slashers very often, but there's a slasher in here. And I mean, the idea I think was to get the slasher to synergize with all the other beast units, like the more beast packs over here and the Fleabag Riders. So yeah, it's a great looking army with a lot of character. I mean, that's always what goblins are. There's always a lot of character when it comes to looking at a goblin army. Oh, yeah, here's an amazing army. This is Steve Tuck. He's been working on this for a long time before this. Well, not that long actually. It was kind of speed painting it actually. But it's Order of the Green Lady. And I can't off the top of my head recall the range of printing miniatures that he used. But these are all sourced from 3D printing, of which he prints himself. And I've had some of his stuff. His 3D printing output. I got a whole bunch of minotaurs for a future project, and yeah, so this is all his own 3D printing stuff, and it's just amazing because Order of the Green Lady has a lot of kind of the Order of the Forsaken, which are these flying cavalry units, and obviously there's no models for it. But the real tricky part is there's really actually no models full stop to get for them. There's the former Pegasus Knights from the Bretonnia range, but they're not being made anymore, so the supply of which is limited, and it is a sculpt from the mid-2000s, and metal. So it's good to get one, but really there's so much better that's out now thanks to 3D printing, and so that's what this really shows. And with a good paint scheme in mind, it can really pop, and that's what this Order of the Green Lady really looks. You can see it's got all the a cohesive nature of blues that ties back to the whole sacred water idea that is part of the Order of the Green Lady, and there's the Green Lady herself right at the front, and yeah, it's just fantastic. Now this army, I was really looking at for a long time because of the sheer density of models. So this is orcs, clearly. We've got our orcs on our Gore Riders here. We've got, I'd say these be more axe, lots of axes, lots of blades. So it's just a huge orc army, but it is full model count and individually based, which some would say is a detraction. Like, it could have looked epic on multi-bases, but at a point when you get to full model count armies, there's not that much difference between multi-basing and just having them individually based, in a way that can also, this guy can then use it for a standard Warhammer Fantasy if he so chose. But it just has this sheer density. So when these guys are hitting you with their attacks, that there's enough models there to deal out that much damage. Because sometimes you see a unit and it'll be like the minimum model count, so for like a horde it'll be 21 guys when it's supposed to be 40, and it's like, oh, I'm hitting you for 25 attacks. It's like, there's not even enough guys there to do that many attacks. But there is no illusion. It is clearly the number of attacks there, and so the models selected and the paint job executed on all these guys just looks great. I mean, you can see these Gore Riders, they just when you get closer, you can just see that there's highlights, there's all kind of effort put into each individual model, and it really makes these Mantic models, which are quite old, look really good. And I think I had Gore Riders myself from a while ago, and I never painted them because I just kind of like, they're not the Games Workshop Boar Riders that had just come out with a new sculpt at that time. But now, looking at them, I'm like, no, they do have their own character, and they're different, because, the whole Mantic Orc is actually quite different. So, were I to try and do them again, I would be happily painting them. That's my whole point here. But this is an epic-looking army, and actually got my vote for favorite. You can pick your favorite army, and I just like this because of the sheer density, and also the dragons' poppin' claws. Look at those, electric blue. So here's Andrew Goodman's army, which you would have seen glimpses of in my battle report, but I was using my action camera, so the look of it wasn't as easy as you can see how good it looks. So yeah, you can see all the units of his 2300 point army here. So there's only one unit of Soul Flayers, but the Soul Flayers, as you can see, very epic, because they're a bunch of clown kind of skeleton things on flying skulls, which is absolutely terrifying, and it's a great combination of different 3D prints. We got this as the Portal of Despair, because of course it is. He wasn't playing against me, so I don't know what that is, but it's cool. This is his custom-made Shadow Hulk, so it's got all the Shadow Hulk bits already on it. It's got the mouth and the 2 extra arm bits. But what's been added are all the tentacles just bursting out of it, because the actual body underneath is the same giant body, and so while obviously it still looks pretty good without these tentacles, putting the tentacles on definitely elevates it to a much more nightmarish kind of look. There's all these kinds of butchers, which I really respect the fact that he's got all these butchers, because the butchers, I think you can only get from the mega box sets and army boxes. So being able to collect all these different butcher hordes, there's 3 hordes of them, as well as the flesh rippers, is no mean feat. Here are the needle fangs. The needle fangs are quite nice, using some of those beasts from Warcry, and we've got the scarecrows as well. So it's just a fantastic collection of miniatures right here, and it's a very well painted army, so I was happy to be smashed by it in the kill scenario, although it was pretty close. Next we have another exceptional army, and one that's taken a theme, as I think I mentioned in that first video. We've got Matt Selleck's The Walking Undead, The Walking Dead, because what it really shows it to you is this sign here, which is taken straight from the first season, when they're going to Atlanta to the CDC, and so we've got here a bit of the highway and a whole bunch of zombies walking right under it. So that's obviously one of the legions of zombies. There's another legion over there, and it's got your Soul Reaver cavalry, whites. Everything's kind of been put into where it might fit in the world of The Walking Dead. So yeah, you got the hospital beds here, like from that first episode, and I guess the only thing that really can't fit, and yeah, it's a vampire on Pegasus, but he still managed to put in some Walking Dead guy on trying not to get hit by it, so it still all fits, and he's done a great job trying to make it all work. Because it's no mean, I've already said mean feat. I'll stop saying that. But yeah, it's a fantastic looking army, and I for one don't mind playing against it. I know for some people it breaks their immersion of the fantasy world, but I mean, if you can have all kinds of different historical armies as well, fighting around, like people could have Romans if they want, then why not, you know, Walking Dead? I mean, it is a bit weird having a street sign walking towards you, but you know, we've got Night Stalkers from all kinds of different places, so why not? Oh, so again, Stormcast, again, ogres, but the basing on this one is really what takes this one to the next level, and it's using some of the newer Stormcast as well, which you can see with the shields. So I believe those are from the newer set, which is in Dominion, those shields. I don't think they're part of the standard first wave of Stormcast, but you know, I'm very unfamiliar with Stormcast. And these are obviously warlords on chariots, perhaps. And we've just got all kinds of, you know, little heroes here, but yeah, the basing is really cool, where we've got this floor, we've got pillars, all these ruins, and it's just a really good army. The only thing I guess it doesn't have is like that pop, because the ruin almost makes it hard to look at some of the individual miniatures, whereas that other one, which was red and blue, was just like electrifyingly, like just grabbing your eyeballs. But that doesn't make this less, it just means this is a bit more, I guess, subtle in its appearance, and I guess it, you know, reinforcing that, it definitely looks more realistic and grimy and grim. And to the next army, well, I think, if I were to guess what this is, we've got some... Yeah, we've got demonettes there, so I'll say Forces of the Abyss is what we're looking at right here, and a good example, with lots of cool kinds of miniatures. I assume all these will be like either Tortured Souls or Gargoyles, and we've got all the Juan Diaz, what are they called? So I'm trying to say succubi, but they're not, they are succubi, but the miniatures themselves, demonettes, that's it. So demonettes and things like that, so it's, and that's obviously a fiend or archfiend, depending on what you're trying to use. But yeah, I didn't get to play this guy, unfortunately, because I do have obviously an appreciation for Forces of the Abyss, and so I would have liked to see what they were done. I assume these are Molochs, judging by their giant bases. But yeah, it would have been good to see, but alas, I'll have to fight them another day. And then here, I believe, we have Ratkin, yes, but with such an interesting colour scheme that it took me a moment to realise what I was looking at. But it's a whole lot of green, and we've got these white helmeted heads, and yeah, and the popping orangey gold. Oh, it's no wonder I took a picture of this. It's just yeah. Obviously, I'm a sucker for popping colours. So when I see them, I'm easily drawn into colours. It probably comes back from my job is a lot of advanced microscopy, and so I always am trying to pick the best colours to show the kinds of stuff I'm looking at in neuroscience. And so when I see popping colours on miniatures, I'm just like, yeah, it just hits something fundamental at the back of my brain. Well, and now we take popping colours to the next level, and I know whose army this is because I've just always been looking at it, because this is some of my inspiration for why I wanted to get into Trident Realms. And so this is Adrian's Trident Realms army, very apparent. We've got a whole bunch of Thule, so the Thule formation's not messing about, and then some extra Thule, because why not? And then we've got all the Thule heroes. I think that's a Centurion, and we've got these. I think this is a Tidal Swarm, which is really cool. I like these ones. I've just got some Tidal Swarm, which just has some kind of crustacean stuff on it. And I assume these are Depth Horrors, of which there are no models, so why not just have a whole bunch of cool Sharkmen? And then speaking of Sharkmen, we have our 2 Coral Giants, which are just, magnificent. Really cool. I mean, this guy just looks awful in the best possible way. Like, he really looks like he will just bite a literal chunk out of your torso. Well, if you were the size of a giant. If you're the size of a normal person, he will just delete you. He'll just eat the whole lot of you and be wanting more. And I think this might be a Depth Horror Eternal, because why wouldn't you have one? But yeah, fantastic army, fantastic color scheme, and just the nice kind of bioluminescent blue put in at regular intervals on all the different bases. So there's just something that kind of adds a popping bit even to things that might not have a popping color to themselves, even though everyone's kind of got this nice kind of purpley lilac light colored skin. So yeah, great army. And then speaking of nice looking armies, now we have here, this is Yan's Free Dwarf list, and it's just each part, it's a lot of old school dwarves as well as some of the Mantic Brock Riders, and it's just all painted to a very nice level on some really nice kind of snow mountain basing. But I think the best part and what draws me most is the crystals on this elemental, or even the rock. I mean, just look at the rock. It looks like rock. It's perfectly looking rock on an earth elemental. So he just looks super solid. And this kind of blue has been then brought across to the greater look of the Brock Riders, which is, you know, also important tying it together. So there's kind of a bit of blue on a lot of the different units, kind of bringing them in a cohesive nature. Flipping to the other side, so there's Yan's army in the background, but now we're on taking a look at the Chaos Dwarves, but not Chaos Dwarves, Abyssal Dwarves, there we go. I'm still trying to get the right terminology in my head. But yeah, it's a classic Abyssal Dwarf look, because why wouldn't you? You know, when you want to do lava, you've got three choices. You can go Salamanders, you can go Abyssals, or you can go Abyssal Dwarves. And I think of all those three, the Abyssal Dwarves probably do it the best, mainly because they themselves can look so dark. So you can't really paint Forces of the Abyss so dark, because, you know, there's a lot of skin tones there. Unless you're making them black skinned, then it's going to not be it's not going to be very contrasting to the base. That's why I actually find when you paint the Abyssals red and then you put them on reddy orangey bases, it all kind of blends together, and it's just all saturating the one kind of receptor you've got in your eyes, just the red cones. Whereas this has got the blacks, it's got the burning kind of bases. I would have liked to have seen maybe blue on the shields as a contrast, but you know, who am I to say what colours you should paint your miniatures when they already look good here anyway? So clearly they've gone in the right direction. And I mean, these obsidian golems just look fantastic. They're so imposing, and they really are quite big. Like, I don't know how you'd actually fit 6 onto a base without having to really like make sure you angled them perfectly, because this looks full already and it looks great. And so it's just an amazing looking army. And then finally, I say finally because I ordered these and I know which one is the final one, but it's by no means the actual final army here. But there were plenty more the day before, but you know, a lot of people didn't turn up for day 2 because of hangovers. But this is a fantastic Mantic Ogre's army, with the exception of obviously of the big deal, because they don't do a mammoth yet. I'm sure they will, because they've made so many mammoths for so many different armies. But here we have these fantastic ogres, and this is before the new ogre range. So if these old ogres can look this good, imagine what this person can do if they get their hands on the new ogres, with all their new detail on them in plastic and their nice chunky legs. I mean, you can't tell they've got really tiny legs, because it's fine. You know, some of us want to skip leg day. Have you tried doing squats all the time? It's not easy. It's hard on the back. Maybe these guys have got lower back issues, so they prefer to just keep their legs, you know, simple, maybe just a bit of cardio, and they do everything on their upper body. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but it's a fantastic army, and I say it's the final one because I wanted to end on this one, because this is my next opponent. It's these ogres. So, I mean, I can introduce the list right here if I needed to, but I do have my slides with the actual list on them. So this is Trent's ogres, and so what he's got here are 3 regiments of warriors, which is just good standard unlocking kind of stuff, and now, as we know from the new Big Red Book, they are limited to 3, so this is a perfectly valid list, and really, who wants to be painting more regiments of warriors if you don't have to? But what's interesting, and I really thought was unique and I'd never faced before, was a horde of hunters with the Brew of Haste. That kind of makes them more into a cavalry unit, because now they're speed 8, they have Pathfinder built in, so that's already really good. They have Crushing Strength 1, 18 attacks, Melee 3, Brutal, Ensnare, and Slayer Melee D3. So it's a perfect combination of stuff. They can really get through most stuff. They can fight a lot. They have that Pathfinder to help them get there, and they have Brutal. It's a lot of things that normal cavalry can usually only have 1 or 2 of, and they've got them all on 1. The downside, obviously, is their defense 4, but you know, you can put them into terrain and keep them quite safe. Then we have the obligatory siege breakers, but only 2 hordes, which is nice, with their standard kind of waiver mitigation stuff, as Chalice of Wrath, Staying Stone. Then we have another new thing from the Clash of Kings book, which is the Crocodog Wrangler. So 2 of those, and so they're just I've never faced these before either, because I have only, I think since the book came out, only played against ogres maybe 2 or 3 times, and no one had included at that point the Crocodile Wrangler, which is probably due to the fact that you've probably got to put one together and make one out of bits from whatever you might have. And so now they're starting to appear, and they're just really nasty. I can tell you that in advance, that they are quite the surprise. And for 110 points, it's a great combination. They don't have unit strength. That's their only detraction, is they don't have unit strength, and that's probably a good thing. But otherwise, they're just really good, especially at 7 attacks. Then there's the Mammoth, upgraded to the big deal, so that it's got that Brutal 2, and it can give Brutal to another unit, +1. It's just a very powerful unit in that regard, and it's very inspiring. But then it's no pushover, because it's got all kinds of crushing strength 2, rampage melee d6, strider, thunderous charge 2. Like, it is going to get through pretty much anything that you send it at. It's just the fact is 12 attacks melee 4, so taking it out by itself it might take 2 turns, and so it can take a while to grind through it. But at dash 18, it's going to be hard to bring it down in return. The part of the list that definitely scared me the most were the 3 Ogre Warlocks, as well as Nomagorok. Might as well just mention him already. So that's a lot of Drain Life and Lightning Bolt. So they've all got Drain Life 5, they've got Lightning Bolt 3. Obviously they can pump it up, +3 thanks to nearby Ogre units. And so that's just going to be lots of lightning at the start, and then when I get close, lots of Drain Life, making all these combats tilt even further in favour of the Siege Breakers. So yeah, I'm already cognizant of the fact that I need to remove them at some point, or at least shut them down, and so that's what I will be trying to do. And then we have another interesting inclusion, so there's definitely things that make it different from your standard ogre list, and that's the inclusion of these 2 sergeants with the heavy crossbows, which are actually really good, because it just turns them into a moving kind of War Machine platform, because they've got 5 attacks, piercing 2, they are range 5+. But 30 inches. So yeah, it's really a War Machine kind of platform, and with 5 attacks, you're roughly going to hit with your range 5+ about 2 times. So yeah, they're really good, and they're still unit strength 1, so they can actually be scoring, and they still have their crushing 2 and elite and inspire, so they're actually still going to do quite a bit of damage in combat, should you find yourself finally in the position to do that. But what makes them really good is I imagine, I haven't used them, but I imagine the whole idea is you can just plonk them onto an objective, and from their objective they can still contribute to the game with their shooting, where a normal thing like a Berserker Bully or something, you want to get into combat, but at the same time you kind of want to put it onto an objective, because it's just so useful in being able to just send it off to get that lonely objective that no one's contesting. And yes, there's Nomagorok here, because he's in every list. He's a bit more expensive now, and I think the way that we did change this list, since the Siege Breakers are more expensive and Nomagorok's more expensive, is maybe that there's just a few less items around, but overall it's a very lean list, with the most expensive item being put on something is just the Brew of Haste. So it's a good list, and I'm definitely scared to face it, so we might as well get into the game. So actually, what happened is I did start filming with my camera, my action camera, but then I realized that it wasn't quite charged, and I hadn't charged it overnight. So the actual very initial deployment pan was with that camera, and then it died on me. And then I was kind of panicking, but I wanted to just get the game going, so we started going. So this is a picture after the first movement. So some things have moved, but how far are things going to move? So from here, I will talk about the deployment and give an idea. So my army is deployed as such. So let's bring up the laser pointer. So here we have all the bang sticks on the left. So what usually happens is I take a look at the different blocking terrain. So we've got, boom, right here, one blocking terrain and another. So these kind of identical buildings, and they split the whole table into thirds. So we have one narrow third here, in which there is this big hill, really big hill, and there's a forest over there that doesn't have any trees, as is the case for most forests in Kings of War. They lose their trees very quickly. And then we have a smaller hill in this middle third, so the middle portion, and there's some difficult terrain over there, and then we have this obstacle, and then over here we have the final third, which I'm totally going to ignore. So when I see these, this splitting of the terrain of the battlefield according to the terrain, I usually select 2 of the 3. Now what we're playing is loot. So we have our 3 tokens, so one there, one here, and one there, and so it's just got to get them, and so obviously you try and aim for just the 2, and it seems like we're aiming for the same 2, although he can very easily get this one himself. So yeah, that's kind of the position I'm in. And over here I have an obstacle right in front of my horde of rabble, and then there's also some difficult terrain. But let's go through my deployment army. So on this 1/3 side, I thought, yep, something easy is to put all my fast stuff so they can zip up and turn. And so I started deploying some of the bang stick stuff here, wingets, Grony Snarks there. We've got the nimble troop of Luggets there that are obviously part of the 2300 point army of this kind. And there's the King on Fleabag. And then right here, to have as much firing as I can possibly can, even with this bloody hill there, I have my war machines. So they're the 2 big rock throwers. So hopefully they'll get a dent on something. And then I have my blaster. There's Grop Longnail there. And then I have my main battle force here of the more solid stuff, which is the 2 hordes of rabble that precede the 3 hordes of trolls. And there is the Troll Bruiser, who is Throg. I've got my king with the sacred Jareth's Pendant and Sacred Horn, not Sacred Pendant, and I believe there might be another character in this. No, that's all the little kings and stuff. Yeah, I'm just getting lost with where all the characters are. So yeah, you can see I've completely given up on this right side, and he's going to get that objective, but I don't want to spread myself too thinly, and these are the nice battle groups that I have. So yeah, he's deployed. So there's 1 regiment of warriors there. There's another sergeant with the heavy crossbow. There's that horde of hunters with their big threat range. They've got charge distance of 16. There's the big deal, and I believe behind the big deal is one of the Crocodile Wranglers, but there's a Crocodile Wrangler right there. There's a horde of siege breakers, another regiment of the Ogre Warriors. All the different warlocks are spread out behind these different units here. So there's a warlock, there's another horde of siege breakers, that's another regiment of ogres, and yeah, some more warlocks. And then I think that guy behind there is the other sergeant with heavy crossbow. So I think his whole deal is to go get that objective. So yeah, they're kind of spread out, but to match me. So the fast stuff is matching my fast stuff, and then the slow stuff is matching my slow stuff, and his slow stuff is definitely more durable, and it has the drain life support. So, but my stuff has regeneration, but hits on 4s. It's gonna be not an easy 1-to-1 fight, but the idea is hopefully I can tilt it in my favor and shoot some things off at the same time. So yeah, he's just moving up, just pretty standard. So not much to go through there. Ah yes. My obligatory pictures, but even though we've already seen them, let's go through them again. It's just they're good looking ogres. They just look really nice. Oh yeah, and look at those hunters. You don't see them very often. No, not at all. So now it's turn 1 for me, and I say with some turn 2 ogres because I do my turn and I start taking pictures, but I don't want to just say, hey, stop doing what you're doing. So he's started doing his thing as well. So hence some charges have actually occurred. But what I did in my turn, well, I wanted my fast stuff to move up and really just put its presence out. So first thing was to then charge that unit of ogre, that warrior regiment. So I hit it with one of the bang stick units. Everything else moved up, and here we are. We just moved up, hit it, destroyed it very easily because it's just a warrior regiment and the bang sticks are bloody nuts. But you can see that there's no wounds on my bang sticks, so somehow they managed to do so without rolling any 6s. But thankfully they killed it. And so now these guys are on the hill, they can see everything, and in order to protect myself, I did fly up with these wingets, just flew up there, and then they got charged. So that's why it's now turn 2 ogres is happening right here, and same with my king on Fleabag is getting charged by the sergeant, but he is hindered because he had to come out of the forest. So yeah, that's me moving up right there. Oh no, he didn't have to go out of the forest. So I think I think I wavered him. No, I charged him, put 1 damage on him, and then I wavered him. That's a waver token. So good on me. But yeah, so that's me moving up over here. We've got the Luggets ready to go down as well once these guys get out of the way. And Grap Longnail, I believe, has some wounds on him because he was getting shot. Because why wouldn't you shoot him? But I don't expect these wingets to live long, but that's not their point. Their point was to screen my bang sticks so then they can get the jump on them. On this side, well, you can see he's moved up a lot in his turn too, but I've just simply moved up all my forces. I've jumped over this obstacle with the goblin horde, so now that they can really push forward, which I need to, because I need to get this token. If siege breakers grab the token, I'm not sure I can get it off them. So I did rush up with my troll bruiser because he has that ability of, since he moves 6, he can, and he's nimble, he can just go bang up 12, get onto a token if I just place them right at the start and retrieve it for me. The idea is he will get there, preventing someone else from getting it, but we'll drop it and provide it to the next wave of units, who will then provide it to the next wave of units. At least that's what I had in mind. You can see a bunch of wounds have been placed on everything, and some of that is from some lightning bolts and stuff, but most of it's from Groany Snark just exploding, hence he's got a wound on himself. So he was right over here, and he just, bang, hurt something, and then, yeah, just hurting all kinds of stuff. But now he's in the middle of this force, and my plan is to go off and hit these warlocks and start shutting down their shooting, because it's yeah, already I'm starting to feel it, and I know that if it just continues unabated, I will suffer all kinds of damage. The only thing that's protected me so far is this hill, but it's not going to protect me for much longer. And you can see in his turn 2, Trent has moved up the ogres. The siege breakers here have got rather slowly. I'm not sure why he's holding them back so much, but I guess the blaster is a bit threatening, whereas these siege breakers have come around. These ogre warrior regiment has come and pick up that token there, and so everything is just kind of encircling. But I've got this to anchor my flank, this blocking terrain, so I don't have to worry too much about the sides. But he's starting to sneak this sergeant down the side, and so I think that's his idea, is to come around and cause some mayhem with the 5 attacks with brutal and crushing too. So yeah, they will do damage, but I see it. I see it. Now we're right into proper turn 2, and so the outcome of that combat with Wingit is unsurprising. The Big Deal and the Crocodile Wrangler together take no time to remove that Wingit. And now it's turn 2 for me, so because that was really all that happened. My Bruiser was unopposed in his position there, so I've gone off and charged all kinds of things. Lots of charges have occurred. So on the left hand side, we can see that both the bank sticks have gone in, so one bank stick unit into the Hunters, one bank stick unit into the Big Deal, which they're spaced back a bit because the Big Deal's horns, his tusks, are pushing out so far, so I can't quite make contact. And at the same time, the nimble king on Fleabag has rushed off to go into, I think he's in one of these combats. He's in the middle there to provide his elite aura, and then the Luggets, having been freed of being blocked by these different cavalry units, have gone and charged that sergeant to remove him along with Grupp. So there's a lot of combats happening on the left hand side. Pretty much everything that can be in combat is. Yeah, you can see the damage on these guys from bloody Groany Snark. Oh, jeez. Groany Snark, he really makes you hurt. But Groany Snark's getting stuff done though, because now he's in combat over here. He's jumped off to smash into the Warlocks, and there's a waver token there because I have wavered one with my shooting, because at this point it started being really hard to find anything to shoot at, because all my line of sight is being impeded by my row of large infantry that I have here, which are the trolls, and the blaster itself is also height 3. So, what can I shoot at? I can't shoot at any siege breakers that I can see, so instead I start shooting at things on the hill, and the best ones are the Warlocks, because yes, the Warlocks are scoring, it's great for them, but the downside to being a giant bloody Warlock, being an ogre, is that you can always shoot them without penalty. They're not an individual, so it's actually really easy to start putting wounds on them with war engines, and so my big rocks throwers are doing just that. They will heal it back because they do have the drain life, but being able to smash into them and hit them. So I've got one disordered thanks to Groany Snark, who just needs to do 1 damage to do that, and the other one's wavered, so now I've halved the number of ranged attacks that are coming my way, which definitely eases off the pressure for me. And you can see here the Troll Bruiser indeed has dropped the token so that this rabble that can just rush up and take it, and yeah, the Troll Bruiser has rushed off into combat with another one of the, I believe it was a Warlock. Yeah, there's only Warlocks over here. So that's 3 Warlocks taken down. So that's 75% of damaged output has been nullified, at least for the next turn. And so I feel quite a bit better that I won't just start losing stuff, because the kinds of things I'm nervous of losing to shooting include the Blaster. Not that I should be that nervous, because he's only 60 points, so if you want to shoot it, go ahead. But yeah, I don't want to lose the Blaster, because I don't think I've been really that lucky in getting it to combat, but isn't that always the way? It's just the threat of the Blaster. So just getting a better look at the different things. Yes, that guy's wavering, got combats there, and yeah, these guys definitely are offering a flank, but I believe they're out of range of those siege breakers, and so there's nothing else I need to worry about really there. So yeah, that's why I was happy to just put them up and get onto that token. And over here, I don't believe I take down anything, which was pretty lame. So this is turn 3 for the Ogres, so having not destroyed the Big Deal, which fair enough, he's dash 18, defense 5, so being able to take him down on the charge is highly unlikely.
But what I did manage to kill, what I did manage to kill was the sergeant, which is, helpful, I suppose, and now the Luggets are free to do their thing. But yeah, we're getting countercharged here by the big deal, but I don't think we're getting countercharged by there, because I think they're wavering. So I've done, I can see it, 10 damage to the hunters, and so they are 15-17, but that's pretty easy to roll a waiver, so they are wavered. But I did do a bunch of damage to myself there, because you can see that says 8, so these guys are going to be backing off. But then looking over here, yes, wavering, just 1 damage here from my bruiser, but what are you going to do? And so yeah, they've backed off, they are wavering indeed, and it's actually the counter charge from the big deal is onto my king, because recognizing that he has the elite aura, and really these bang sticks are going to kill themselves, so getting onto them is no hurry. Over here, a whole bunch of charges have happened. So we have the warrior regiments, each going separately into the rabble, not with the idea of killing them, but I guess just preventing them from dictating the charges. So now they're pinning them in place, and the bruiser is certainly bruised by a flank charge from the siege breakers. But I just moved it up because I wanted to shut down one of the ogre warlocks, and now I'm thinking that maybe I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, when he was here, it just seemed like the right thing. I think he was out of range of the siege breakers, but perhaps if I could have charged the siege breakers, hitting them in the front, they might not have killed my my troll bruiser in one shot. But here we are. He's going to have to suffer a very quick death. But something's got to get hit by siege breakers, and maybe the best way is just not let anything hit them. Over here, well, we can see that the crocodile wrangler is hitting my Grony Snark. And so that's a perfect target, and trying to predict where those crocodile wranglers can go is really hard to do, because it does defy your previous assumption of what's blocking, because it can go through the legs, it can charge through the ogres, so it's always a bit harder to try and avoid that, and I guess you never really can. So we'll see if Grony can survive that combat, but I think he's fine. It's just 2 damage there, but I think he is also wavering too, so that's classic Grony. But maybe he's not wavering. I'm trying to remember. We'll see when I do my next turn, because I definitely don't break the rules. And yeah, so much damage is happening all over the place that I've started to resort to a different set of dice. Normally I use these red zombicide dice, but now I'm resorting to using this white dice for damage as well. So the king and the unit of flea bags. So you can see that the crocodile wrangler was the only one that was taking out the unit of. Oh no. This is what obviously happened, because Trent's a smart player. Trent has charged my king and then killed the king with the big deal, and then the big deal went on to also hit, because it can overrun, straight into, So I gotta stop giving these kind of opportunities to my opponents by giving them an individual, because the individual itself didn't contribute much to that combat, so what was I doing? So in return, he managed to take out not only the king, but also the bang sticks as well, which now makes the remaining bang sticks that much less effective. Lessons that I need to learn, but here we are. So I've just got my 1 unit of bang sticks on 8 damage, facing off against some quite damaged hunters, and 8 damage on the big deal. So we'll just have to see how I can deal with the Gruppalong now, the Luggets, and the remaining bang stick unit are now no inspiring, because I've lost the king, because I'm really, really smart. Over here, obviously, my troll bruiser did not survive that fight, and that's not surprising at all. And the blurry action shot indeed shows a wavering Grony Snark, which is not ideal, but I think I have a way to help him out. And so in turn 3, this is how I helped him out. Because I have a nice 9-inch aura of Headstrong, thanks to the combination of Sacred Horde and Jareth's Pendant, I got within 9 inches, offered him some Headstrong, and he actually rolled the 3+, so he was able to get out and fly away. Because that's what I've actually learned to do. Previously, what I would do is I'd charge in, and then something would hit him back, and then I'd just stay there until one of them died. But the problem is he drops his Thunderous 2, he's just crushing 1, he still has his blast, but it really just does nothing at all. So the best thing to do is to get him out, fly away, because he's bloody individual, he's fine. So he doesn't even need to fly away, he can just get away, because he's still speed 10, and so you just get him away,
and then he can recuperate and just immediately charge back in next turn because he's an individual and can charge in any direction. Any other thing, it's like you have to spend turns turning around, and it's really quite annoying. But him getting out, just take that one turn to recuperate, and then come back in at full strength with his bloody thunderous 2, crushing 1. It's amazing. So that's what I've learned to do from previous games. So he's run off to feel better. What I do have here is, after this turn, my rabble horde managed to take out the regiments all by themselves, which is no mean feat. And so they've turned to face the warlocks and things. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. My trolls are coming up, ready to face off the siege breakers, and yeah, we've got a whole bunch of units just ready to get in. But these rabble are surviving a lot longer than I thought they would, which is a little bit annoying. But yeah, so that's some kind of tactical stuff I'm doing there, and you can see off on the screen he's moved his sergeant down the side. So over here, well, I'm quite proud of what I've achieved here. Everything went into the big deal and managed to kill it, and the Crocodile Wrangler, which was thanks to Grupp, because Grupp's got Duelist and loves killing individuals because of his blast. So we've gotten rid of all that threat there, and I'm starting to do something really stupid, and that is forgetting about the objective, or kind of thinking that these Bang 6 alone will be able to take out these hunters, but they are so damaged, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I need to get the Luggets over here to help out, and, you know, send them into the siege breakers, and really what I should be doing is just turning these Luggets over and just grabbing that objective, or just sitting them here while these guys take their time, and, you know, these guys get the objective, and they're nimble, so they can go over there, get it, turn, and then go boom, and take them out, whether or not these guys do so. You know, he can only charge one thing over here, so yeah, I look back on it and I'm like, why did I do this? But, you know, sometimes it can't be explained with logic, sometimes it's just stupidity. But in the big fight in the middle, well, it's these goblins here, since I had put him there, they couldn't really turn any further. I don't think it was a consequence. No, I don't think I really checked the angles, because now I've got a flank charge from some siege breakers, and that's really not a situation you ever want to find yourself in, even if it is rabble, but they're definitely going to be deleted, and so that's unfortunate that I just did that. And then you can see Grony over there getting better. So no surprise with the turn 4 ogres, is they managed to take out those the rabble horde. So that's one rabble horde down, but this rabble horde's holding on and preventing anything from getting in there. So we've still got 2 full health siege breakers, my god, and a whole bunch of warlocks to support them. So this main battle group of the army still holds true, and I've got to try and take that down with my trolls, which are probably equal value, 3 hordes of trolls to 2 hordes of siege breakers. But I don't have nearly the amount of support to keep it all going, whereas he's got all these warlocks. It's just going to make it never stop. Yes, so over here, the Bang 6 did get charged, and yeah, so the hunters have come out pretty good, killing them. So I need to do something about that. And I will in my turn 4. So now everything is starting to condense, and the shooting's doing nothing. It's just the whole game. They managed to waver one thing, and that was about it. But I've sent in Grupp to kill these hunters, because I think he can. It's pretty good, but he is going to be hindered, unfortunately. And yeah, here's some real stupidity. I'm sending these Luggets over here, because I'm like, oh, the Luggets. You know, you see you think of all the damage they could do, and you start making this romantic alternative universe where you think, oh, they're going to kill, and they're going to be heroes, and it's just going to crack it all wide open. But really, I should have been going over there to secure one objective that I definitely could have had. But instead, they're coming over here, along with everything else, and so I've got the trolls coming in, but nothing's actually in charge range yet, because he's all withdrawn it back. And what I'm doing is I'm just offering up some things like, you know, a blaster and stuff, but I need to get into combat, because I just can't weather all this lightning bolts once it really starts going. But at least they won't be doing some crazy lightning bolts, because there's not as many hordes around. But yeah, it's and these guys are angled so that they don't get flank charged by that sergeant that is just sitting off screen here. Yeah, oh, this is a bit of a clearer picture. I just zoomed in better. But I've done some more damage to these ogres, so that's pretty good. The rabble might take them down by themselves after all. Oh, and there, Grony Snark. He's come in full power to smack into the rear of those siege breakers, but only doing 4 damage. You know, sometimes he'll do a whole bunch of damage, but in this case, only 4. And here's some cool close-ups of this scene. I don't know, I was just thinking of taking some pictures because I thought it looked cool. And yeah, it doesn't look bad at all. There's the siege breakers facing off against trolls. And yeah, there's my blaster. Quite proud of it. Corpse cart, pushed by some ogres. So here we are, turn 5 for the goblins. We've completely skipped the turn 5 for the ogres, so you'll just have to guess what kind of happened. But look, there's 2 siege breakers here now in the middle of the battlefield, and that is because one of them charged one of my ogres, so that would be the one over here. They went bang, ogres, into my trolls, and this one's charged into my trolls, and so now we've got a whole troll fight going on, and now I'm hitting back here. But if you had to pick who was going to win, I would say it's the Drain Life supported siege breakers, because there's all these warlocks that are supporting them, and I'm just trying to take things down. So yeah, it's just a grind fest in here. I have the token on these trolls, but for how long? Not long at all, I'm sure. And over here, I'm slamming into this crocodile, and I think I did 1 damage or something, so it's just pitiful. It's just things aren't quite working, and yeah, so if these guys were over there and had a token, I have this token, and Groany Snark is taking out this sergeant, preventing him from grabbing that token as he was supposed to do, because he walked around here, my trolls turned, and he's like, oh, and he just pivoted and went all the way back, and then Groany's like, bang, hit him, just to take him down a peg, not kill him, I don't think he will, but to prevent him from getting this objective. So, you know, it could have been a closer game. But instead, I forgot about it and now have no unit strength over there to get that. But, you know, here's Grupp. Grupp killed the hunters by himself, so good on Grupp. Yeah, so just a better picture, a bit closer. Oh, that's what happened. The regiment's dead. So these goblin hordes are doing a really good job of taking out ogre regiments. No one would have thought that was capable. But then in turn 6, so I'm skipping his turn because maybe I'm just watching everything die and being so shocked I can't get my camera up in time. But what we're seeing finally is that me trying to take down desperately these siege breakers, which have taken that token. The token was sitting there, they took it, and I'm like, no, I need to get it back, because I realized it's the last token, and I should have grabbed it, but instead I'm stuck here. I also got a flank charge on one of the warlocks when really maybe I should have gone off and grabbed that, but I don't think I could have. And I did 20 damage and rolled a double 1, so that's pretty cool. What are you gonna do? And over here, yeah, I hit them with as much as I could, all the different units, and it was just 8 damage. And that's the combined efforts of the 2 blast characters, which should have done a bit more, especially since they're not suffering from the big shield, and just because I put the king into the front, because, yeah, why not? But yeah, still, I just couldn't take down these siege breakers. So I was taking down all kinds of things, and you can see I've damaged all kinds of warlocks, and nearly everyone's got some damage on them, but I just couldn't finish anything off. And so this is where I was really starting to feel the lack of armor penetration power of the goblins, because I'm just like, defense 6, I can't do anything to you. And trolls, obviously trolls are inferior. There's no question that trolls should be inferior to siege breakers, but they felt really inferior in this game, and I'm just like, I wish I could just get through things a bit better. And so this is pretty much where it ends. The Lugguts are gone because the Crocodile Wrangler managed to take them out in return, which was very surprising and annoying, but that is the way it is. So yeah, it's a victory to the Trent's ogres, and he also killed quite a bit. I still have some units here, but he has, with all those warlocks still alive, that's a lot of points by themselves, and you put that with the siege breakers, that's pretty much half his army is still alive, whereas I definitely don't have half my army still alive. And so, yeah, it's quite a decisive victory to Trent, and it was okay because he's got amazing Mantic Ogres and they look great, so I don't really mind. And it was a great game to have anyway, and I hope he didn't mind me taking pictures all the time. And this is just to show what happened to this guy. So he's just sitting there and unable to get that token. So yeah, that was the game. Trent was a great guy. I think he came down from New South Wales, and so it's great to play other kinds of people and other armies that you never see. That was probably one of the best things about this tournament, among many things. And so let's get into that final picture. There it is. All my guys trying their best, but they couldn't. So for the final round of the whole tournament, this is game 7, or the third game of the second day, I am up against Brendan's Northern Alliance. So at this point, I have won 2 games. I've lost 4 games. Yes, it must be 4. Yeah, I've lost 4 games, so I'm not doing so good. There's no real way to get back to 50-50 like I hope to do in any of these tournaments, but there is one last chance to at least get one more victory and push me up a little bit further. So, going against Northern Alliance doesn't make that easy, however, because they have a lot of powerful units, and most of them are straight upgrades from what I'm used to playing with in the Goblins. So, first we have 2 regiments of Huskarls. These really don't need much introduction. They're just a fantastic regiment. They're nice and small compared to, say, a horde of large infantry and stuff. They're still on the bigger bases because they are they're heavy infantry. But that notwithstanding, their defense 5 with 20 attacks and crushing strength 2 is just a perfect combination of both hammer and anvil. They have quite high nerve, and that defense 5 really helps. They have fury, so they're just kind of do a bit of everything, and I think the only downside that most people cite when they come to using them is the speed 5. They're just a bit too slow, and they're not very tall in that they can't see things to charge with, so it's sometimes pretty difficult to get them where you want them to be, but otherwise they're a pretty fantastic unit. Speaking of fantastic units, there's the Icekin Hunters, which are the Gladestalkers of the Northern Alliance, and there's 2 regiments of those. They're just like the Elven kind of Gladestalkers. They've got Elite, they've got Pathfinder, Scout, steady aim bows, and 12 shots. Just everyone knows what the Gladestalkers are like, and these are just fantastic. They've got the ice-tipped arrows, but it rarely ever comes into it. I don't think. But then we have the Snow Foxes, just 1 unit of chaff in this case, so 1 small Snow Fox regiment. Nothing much to say there, just chaff. Then we have 3 units of Snow Trolls. 2 of them are regiments and 1's a horde with the Chalice of Wrath. So the Snow Troll regiments are really more like thick chaff. They do have the same difference between Waver and Rout that standard trolls have, but Snow Trolls are just straight upgrades compared to my kind of trolls, because they get Vicious, they get Wild Charge 1, and they get 1 pip of Nerve as well, so they're just straight up better. But you do have to pay for that premium, so at the Horde level it's 30 extra points on top of that unit for that 1 Wild Charge, Vicious, and 1 extra Nerve, and that's, I think, worth it. If there such an upgrade existed for regular trolls to be like, would you like to make yours Snow Trolls, I would take it, but unfortunately that's not available, so I've just got my regular trolls. But something has to be regular, so that's just how it works. Then we have the true hammer of the list, and that is the Frostfang Cavalry Horde with Brew of Haste, bringing their speed 7 up to 8 so that they're more like your regular kind of cavalry, but they aren't regular kind of cavalry because they have 30 attacks, which is an obnoxious amount of attacks at crushing strength 2 with Strider, so they are always going to be hitting on their 4s with their crushing strength 2 and the wild charge. 1 just helps push them into even faster than regular cavalry, so they'll get their charges off. The downside of this giant unit is it is a giant unit. Large cavalry bases are huge, and so a horde of them really stretches out across a lot of the battlefield, and so that's when I see these kinds of unit, my idea is to try and tangle them up if it is possible. It's not always possible, and I'm not always able to remember how I should do that, but that's what I see when I see these large bases. Like, that's something I might be able to hold up. Things like Huskarls, not so easy to hold up, because they're a bit more compact compared to a horde of Frostfang cavalry. Then on the hero side, we have 1 Lord with Wings of Honeymaze and the Horn of Winter, which gives them the Aura of Wild Charge +1 for infantry and heavy infantry only, which is just a very good upgrade, and that affects him as well. So he can actually move really, really far because he has the Wings of Honeymaze, so now he has a 22-inch charge aura, which is pretty crazy. Crushing strength 2 on a Lord is always fantastic, because most of the other kind of characters only have crushing strength 1, so having that extra crushing strength is really good, and they're very inspiring, which is just honey on the cake. The downside being Wings of Honeymaze defense 4, but defense 4 is not too bad, and 6 attacks, very nice. So that's the Lord, and then there's a Lord on Frostfang, which you must have, which he has a very nice model for. It's really cool, with a Blade of Slashing and a Snow Fox. Then we have the Ice Queen with Conjurer's Staff, Heal 5, and Bane Chant 2. Also comes with Icy Breath 10. So just a good healer. Bane Chant. It's a lot of spells, a lot of points for this 1 unit, but they definitely find their use in this kind of list because obviously you've got your regenerating trolls, and so the healing, and then the Bane Chants for your Icekin Hunters. It's all working quite well together, and finally a Snow Troll Prime, which is just a fantastic character to have around. And for 10 points more expensive than my Troll Bruiser, it gets, again, 1 pip of Nerve, Wild Charge 1, and Vicious. So why wouldn't you? It's just straight up better than all the things that a standard Troll Bruiser can bring to the table. So very not jealous at all these better trolls in this list than mine, but that's just how it works. So here's the gaming table set up for our final game, and the scenario for this is very, very simple. It is Dominate.
There's a token to mark out, that's the center of the board right there, so there's the dominate center from there. So we'll all want to get within, I believe it is 12 inches of the center. Most unit strength wins. The difference with this is if you have one unit on the very point on here, be it a individual or anything, they will get +1 unit strength to contribute. So that's just a little nuance to this tournament, and it's quite interesting, but we'll both forget it, so yeah, it doesn't really matter, so just forget about it from this point on. But yeah, we've got the deployment, and I'll run through first the battlefield. So what we have here, again, I have my 2 pieces of blocking terrain that I then identify and use to split up my forces, identical in the manner that was split up as was happening in the Ochre game. You'd think I'd learn, but no, I didn't. So on the left side, we have the speedy contingent, and on the right side, the heavy contingent. By going through the rest of the terrain, we have a hill right in front of me, which I believe, yeah, is on this. There's their hill that I would move. So if you didn't remember this tournament, you roll off and you get to move a piece of terrain up to 6 inches in any direction, and so I moved that, hoping to get my stuff in it. But unfortunately, just because you get to win the roll-off to move the terrain doesn't mean you win the roll-off to actually place on that side. And so usually what happens is when someone else wins it, they go, well, I'm not giving you that hill to put your war machines on, and so they take it. So that's what Brendan exactly did. He put his stuff over there. We have those 2 forests, pretty easy to see. We have some difficult terrain over there, just on that side of the hill, on the side of the building. We have 2 obstacles, one sitting across from the forest, one sticking out from this giant piece of blocking terrain, so that's a big house. And underneath some of my army there is the other piece of difficult terrain. So your standard 2, 2, 2, 2 of everything. So my deployment is, yes, the fast contingent. Bang sticks, the wingets, the luggets that are nimble. That's all here on the left. Then the other side of the unpainted 3D printed orc house, that is one of the prizes, is, yes, the chunk of everything else. So the heavy stuff, as I like to say. So it's the 2 hordes of rabble and my 3 hordes of trolls, as well as the troll bruiser. There's the blaster. There's my 3 characters, Grupp, Grony, and the king. Then I have my war engines down here, and that's the whole deployment. Pretty compact, really. I try to layer these guys. I try to keep these guys cool, and the idea is this one has Strider, so it can go into the forest. This one does not have Strider, so we can try and circumnavigate the forest and threaten in a way that will mean that it won't go through it at all, because that really sucks. But looking at the other side, so I'll show all these units, I think, close up later, but there is the Lord on Frostfang, which is this giant wolf, Fenris from Viking mythology, and it's got a Frostfang. It's actually got like one of the Frostfang riders on its back, so it's a nice conversion, really cool. Then we have one of those regiments of trolls right in front of a unit of Huskarls. Then we have another regiment of trolls in front of another unit of Huskarls. There is the Thane that will bounce around with his wings of honey maze. There's that's a horde of trolls right there with the Chalice of Wrath, Troll Prime, and then the 2 Icekin Hunter units, and finally the horde of Frostfangs, preceded by Snow Foxes right there. And I think the Ice Queen's like there, or maybe behind here. There's an Ice Queen in there somewhere. But yeah, that is the whole makeup of the army right now. So let's get into our first round. And who gets to go first? It's me. And so I just move up. I move up gradually here just to get things onto the hill so I can see some things at least. So there's not much to talk about there. And I try and pop my bruiser over that obstacle, because these obstacles can always be very annoying. But on the left side I'm getting pretty cheeky, so I put my boots of striding bang sticks into the forest. So that's just toe in, looking, and threatening this kind of stuff. So they've got the 20-inch charge, so all of that is in range. The Frostfang Lord, the trolls. But then to add a complication, I put the other bang sticks all the way up here. So I run them up and then turn them 90 degrees to face in, so that they're facing the flank of the Lord on Frostfang and also the Troll Primes, because that's not Troll Primes, just Snow Trolls, because they're just poked out a little bit. And so, what one would you face? So you've got to face them at an angle now, in a way that even then you might be giving something else off to, say, the Luggets, or well, I guess you're not scared of the Wingets. But what I have done in a way is try and force the issue that something has to face this way, because you don't want to get double charged by these guys. So that's the situation there.
But then over here, you can see that some shooting has gone on. And I think I got a close-up. Yes, there we go. So my war engines, having been deprived of this beautiful hill, managed to get 3 hits on these poor trolls, which is already exceptional. But then on top of that, I was able to, I think, yeah, the D3 plus 1, yeah, it all ended up being 9 damage. 9 damage to a regiment of trolls is, it's amazing that they're still here at all. But they are 12, 15, so, you know, I still have to roll reasonably high twice to get them. So they stuck around, but they are wavered, which is pretty awesome, because that means the unit behind, the unit of Huskarls, they're just going to have to wait. They can't go anywhere right now. So, yeah, there's the Snow Queen. So, yeah, that was a pretty good turn for me, and will forever scar Brendan against big rocks throwers, because, yeah, he was very, very shocked, and I was very, very happy, because finally my war engines were doing something, because up until this point, I was thinking why I really took them. And, yeah, now, here begins just the picture collage of looking at the different units. He's done a great job. It's mostly Mantic stuff, and it just looks really, really good. And a classic Northern Alliance look. But now it's turn 1 for the Northern Alliance, and as expected, well, no, it wasn't as expected, but, you know, as I set up a charge here to the side, so things had to turn to meet it. Nothing's giving up undue flanks. They're all just trying to put their facing to both my Bankstick units. So the Huskarls and the regiments of trolls have turned, and the Lord of Frostfang is keeping an eye on the center here, because he hasn't got time to be babysitting all over there, and he's protected for now. The Huskarls, well, they're pretty annoyed that we've got a regiment of wavered trolls in front of them, so they've had to shuffle sideways, but that's about all they can do. Whereas the rest of the army moved up, and would have really liked these guys to move up with them. So that's what's happening here. But no charges to declare as yet. So it's pretty simple. So turn 2, I'm doing really what shouldn't be done, and that is getting all kinds of charges in. So first here on the left, the Banksticks go, one Bankstick goes into the Huskarls, the other one go into the Trolls. The King there also goes into the Trolls, and so combat ensues and things will die. One combat you can't really appreciate from here is that Groany Snark is no longer on my hill. You can see that the Trolls have moved up to C on the hill. Everything is kind of just moving up. But since Groany was on a hill, he was then height 5, which Brennan didn't take into account when he moved his Ice Queen up within range. And so seeing that position, and within easily 20 inches and space for him to get in behind, boom, I just go straight off and charge into the Ice Queen. Hopefully killing it. I mean, sometimes he'll charge into these characters and just do 1 damage because he's still only got 5 attacks, and that blast can be fickle. But I did it anyway, because taking down that Ice Queen would be a very good start to weakening this whole line, because then there's no heal available or Bane Chant, which already had me concerned. And hey, if you're going to take out 145 points with your 100-point flying character, why wouldn't you? The final thing that I did was, using my peak cheekiness, is I moved this Troll Bruiser up, and then turned it in a way so that the flank was being presented to these Snow Foxes and to these Frostfangs, but no one could get into that flank because there is this giant big building. So I've got him in a way that I can threaten a whole bunch of things, so he can see a lot, but nothing here dangerous can charge him. And the only things that can charge him would be, I think it's just the Troll Prime by himself, but obviously doesn't want to do that because we'll have no way of taking him out on the charge. So yeah, what this does is kind of help provide a bit of a stopgap and prevent these Frostfangs from just getting right up as soon as possible, because even the Frostfang horde does not want a Troll Bruiser into their flank or rear. So he can just sit there safely. Unfortunately, what can't sit there safely is the Blaster. It's already gone. Like I say every time, the Blaster just keeps dying, and it did again. The Blaster was taken from me by these Icekin Hunters, just and gone. So again, the Goblin Blaster doesn't last very long. That was in his turn, so I forgot to mention that. But what happened in my turn, my return fire was to remove those trolls once and for all. So I managed to shoot them some more and kill them. So yes, the trolls are doing an exceptional job. So let's see how those combats go. Well, I did manage to kill the trolls. That's no surprise. They haven't got that much nerve, and these guys, however, whiffed quite severely. I can't quite see. I think that's 6 damage there. Yeah, so 6 damage is not going to be something you can use to take out Huskarls. That's for certain, and I only did 2 damage there to myself, so therefore only rolled 2 6s. So, you know, sometimes these guys just don't quite get the maths together. And so what I've done is I've moved this guy sideways because I think I wanted to try and stop this Frostfang, but you can't stop a Frostfang Lord. Yeah, it's impossible. They're nimble. But that's what I've done. And also offering him up for death. So I shouldn't be doing that because he's actually very precious. So what really I should have been doing is moving him the other way. But hey, what ho, let's do it. Let's just get rid of our important characters. But oh, there's a dead Ice Queen because it's not there anymore. So that was also a surprise. So yeah. Poor Brennan's just like, huh? That shooting? Huh? Grony Snark? And it's just like, goblins can be pretty silly. They can be pretty silly indeed. But for the overall scheme of things, yeah, it says turn 3 goblins, but that's a joke. That's a lie. It's actually, what is it? Oh, no. So, yes, it is turn 3 goblins. No, it's true because we've skipped, his turn 2, because I obviously didn't take pictures, so in his turn 2, what may have happened? Well, we've got the Snow Foxes getting here in front of my trolls so that these Frostfangs can get out a bit more safely. That Wings of Honeymaze guy came and smashed my Grony Snark, who has now run away, so he's got 4 damage on him. So yeah, that Wings of Honeymaze guy doesn't mess around. And I've started trying to shoot these Huskarls, which have turned to face the Bangsticks that have now victoriously taken down the Frostfang Lord. So the other Bangsticks, however, through not being able to kill those Huskarls, suffered a fate of being smashed by Huskarls, which easily take down Bangsticks because it's the perfect target for them. You know, with that crushing strength 220 attacks, they're hitting on 3s. That's an exceptionally high amount of damage because these guys only have defense 4. So it's a guarantee that they just can't survive the return attack of these Huskarls. So really, I probably should have attacked the Huskarls with both the Bangsticks, but I have a feeling that one wasn't in range because it was all the way down here, and those Huskarls, it might not have been in range. But in any case, this is how it's turned out. So I've had to use my Wingit to prevent those Huskarls from getting the jump on these Bangsticks because I would like to eventually. They use that time, the Wingit, to take down the Frostfang Lord. But unfortunately, in his inevitable turn 3, these guys will charge into the Bangsticks and they will kill him. The Thunderous Charge doesn't matter in this point because, yeah, it's just defense 4. But that's what's been going on over here. You can see that the Frostfang Lord did indeed actually charge my king, but only did 6 damage, so he's still around, which is pretty good. My army still kind of just sits around this hill, but we are slowly shuffling sideways so that I can get some more angles on these units, because I now see this as the main threat, and I foolishly think that this is all fine, but really it's 2 units of Huskarls, which is still very, very dangerous. But yeah, not much else has moved over here. They're attempting to shoot. They're trying to figure out what to do with my Troll Bruiser. But I can also shoot too, and so I've wavered these Snow Foxes. With the shooting mostly from him, this guy. He's got his the fire bombs, but then I can also do shooting from the short bows on my king. So that's also very helpful. So yeah, it's all looking pretty interesting. That's my new target for the some of the war engines as well as the Huskarls, but it's just to no avail for now. So, well, I mean, they've already taken down a regiment of trolls, so what really more can I hope for? Well, in turn 3 from the Northern Alliance, as expected, the charges are happening, and as a smart player, Brendan has decided to charge first the individual and then use the overrun, which is nothing, to then also kill out the Bangsticks. So here is the train wreck beginning, and there is the end of the train wreck, all finished. And then we've skipped my turn and gone to turn 4 Northern Alliance, which I don't think is... it is correct, because you can see now that all kinds of things have happened. So in my... yeah, the pictures are getting pretty erratic, and I do apologise, but you know what? It will speed up the battle report. And so for that, we can all be grateful. So in his turn, he killed the king, but he did manage to get a double 1 on these goblins. So then he had to charge them with both of the Huskarls, because these Huskarls are stuck, so they might as well get in there and make sure that the damage is well and truly done. I have managed to side shuffle both my Goblin Rabble and my Trolls enough that I can get out over here and threaten a whole bunch, and you can see there is a distinct lack of a Lord with the Wings of the Honeymaze, and I think it's because my Trolls went and killed him, and that's why they're all the way out here, when before they were here. So they've kind of used that to get out and now threaten a whole lot of the center, and there's the central token right there. These trolls are now coming out, and I think they took out one regiment of trolls because you can't see that here anymore. So I'm just really deducing what's no longer here, and my my troll bruiser is attacking the snow troll prime, moving from his position because he's no longer needed there anymore, and I wanted to stop him from getting a charge in and then holding something down for something else to attack. But I have put my winglet in the way of the Frostfang Horde. But the Frostfang Horde is starting to get damaged thanks to Groany Snark just jumping in at full strength from behind. Because these guys are so tall, if he's able to see them at all through the forest, he can just smash right into them. So that's why he is there. So yeah, it's definitely even. We've still got I've got all my trolls pretty unharmed, whereas he's got one troll, one Frostfang. These Frostfangs are a little bit harmed, and the Huskarls are moderately harmed. But yeah, he's definitely still got a bit more power than I do. But I'm trying to hold it in there. And I've still got these war engines, which are doing an exceptional job. And so that's here just showing Groany getting in there, and he did 9 damage on his charge. And so he's definitely pulling his weight. He took out an Ice Queen. He's done 9 damage to Frostfangs, so he can retire happily. Yeah, more pictures over here. Yes, 19 damage on those bang sticks now. So they're very close to death, but the double ones keeps them in the fight. And now this is a bit below. Yes, and so this is the end of his turn. He resolved that fight. The double ones finished it off, and so... Oh, not double ones. So he got over the double ones by bringing in both of his Huskarls, and so now they're free to harass the rest of my army. And we can see here, the trolls have charged in. So that must have been like a starter turn for... Yeah, I was probably erratically just taking pictures. And yeah, my troll bruiser's still in combat, and so the Icekin hunters have decided that shooting is no longer helpful anymore because things are all getting into combat, so they're going to turn and start contributing, because they're still quite good in combat with their elite melee 3. Unfortunately, no Bane Chant, because I killed it. And the Winget's gone. So, this may be turn 5. But, you know what? The narrative is still continuing, so it all makes sense. But what about my turn? Well, here's my turn. And what I've managed to do is a few tricks. The first of which is I got a triple charge off of that Snow Troll Horde, because they did offer it, and I just couldn't turn it off or turn it up. I really should have perhaps sent one of the trolls off somewhere else, but I think in the end I actually only just managed to kill these snow trolls, because you know these trolls they're not reliable. So yeah, putting in 3 lots of trolls, and these guys double, so it's as if they're getting charged in the front by 4 trolls, because it's 36 plus the 72 troll attacks going in, and so I do know that this kills them. Didn't double one it. And to hold these guys up, the Goblin Rabble have rushed off to start chipping in and maybe even kill the Huskarls, because I was getting a bit hopeful. And these guys are at full health, so we'll see how long they last. So here, they're gone. So in this turn, since they're height 5 and it's very easy to see them over that obstacle, the war engines managed to destroy those Frostfangs by putting on a little bit more damage to what was already quite damaged. They had 9 from Groany Snark, and so they're gone now. Groany Snark is no longer with us, and I think that's because of the admirable efforts of the Icekin Hunters. Yes, good on you, War Engines. You have now made your case to stay in the army for a little bit longer. But now we have the Snow Trolls. They are gone, and so I just have to contend with those Icekin Hunters, but I'm also keeping in mind the scenario, so I was just edging a bit more to the side. And the fight between the 2 different kinds of troll heroes goes on. In turn 5 of the Northern Alliance, well, we've got a double charge into the Rabble, because that makes sense, that's what he's going to do. What that leads to, I'm not sure. I'm trying to keep some inspiring on everything, as well as headstrong, so that's why my hero's right there, but really my hero should be right there, right next to him, and then I'd be getting that +1 unit strength, were we to get to the end of the game. But yeah, I kind of just forgot about that stupidly. And in his turn, he manages to finally kill, with a flank charge from the Icekin Hunters, my Troll Bruiser. So the Troll Bruiser is now gone, and the Icekin Hunters are facing off against my various trolls. And then they just shuffle back, getting out of the way so that they can't get all charged all the time. But obviously this one is offering up some flanks, and I can't remember if I'll take it. So, I'll be as equally surprised as you, because I shouldn't. I should stay here and try and actually win the scenario. And I didn't, so instead, what I did do with these trolls, they charged that Troll Bruiser, because he's still 1 unit strength, and these trolls that were stuck there, and have been shot at quite a bit, so they're on 7 damage, have gone into those Icekin Hunters. with the Goblin Rabble not lasting long enough at all, I decided, well, I need to kill these guys because this is a lot of unit strength. These Huskarls, and so I just had to get the fight to them rather than wait for them to come to me. So I've charged in with the hopes that I'll actually kill them because they've already got quite a bit of damage on them, and Grupp's going in there for good measure, and they do. But then in his turn, he's now charging me with his trolls, and his Huskarls, and these trolls are actually quite well, they're undamaged. So I expected them to survive, but they didn't, and so the Huskarls went right through. But at the same time, now there's those Icekin Hunters obviously gone because they got they got hit. No, these guys survive. Yes, because yeah. These ones are from there. They've moved. My trolls have managed to kill his Snow Troll Prime, and I think then none of my heroes are on that token. And so what that means, whoop, there we go. That's the end. It ended on turn 6, and it was very silly because I could have just had these guys. I think I moved him away. It was like, oh, don't charge him, but I should have just had him there. If I had him there, I would have won. Or if Grupp came back and sat there, I would have won. That was it. That would have been it. But it was unique to this situation. And I actually kind of thought, oh, it's over. But actually, when we measured, these guys weren't in at all. So it was just these two. Unit strength 3, it's a draw. So the final game, a draw. But it was actually quite fun. It was so close the whole way. There was all kinds of ridiculous things because there were double ones. I can't remember if there was any double 6s. You never take pictures of the double 6s really, but there's all kinds of silly stuff. Lots of things were getting shot off and very surprising amounts of damage happening in all kinds of places. So it was an exceptionally fun game. I really enjoyed it, and it was a good way to finish the whole day. I wasn't too zonked at the end. I felt like I still had my faculties, but not enough to remember that my individual can go on the token there and give me one more unit strength and would have won me the game. But hey, what are you gonna do? So yeah, that was the end of the whole tournament of ConVic. It took a long time to get these battle reports out, but it's been a really busy time because in my line of work in academia, there's a lot of conferences happening, and so yeah, if I'm going to be practicing presentations, it's actually academic presentations rather than presenting battle reports to you guys. But maybe one day they'll coincide. So this is the way the tournament ended. We have all these things on the table, and these are all just prizes. And the cool way that they went through it was, they've got the best general, second, third. They've got best evil, best good, best neutral. And so that's what they have these different thrones here for, first, second, and third. One's an evil throne, one's and then there's the player's choice. There's the sexiest general, which has this werewolf, which has flowers. It's very nicely painted, and all these 3D printed stuff. Just so much different. You got terrain. You got lots of kinds of blocking terrain. No one lacks for blocking terrain, but it also has some cool trees, and it has all kinds of units, lots of monsters. And so the way it works is the people who got the more important awards, such as first, second, and third, would get their choice of whatever they liked in this table, and then they go down the awards, and people get to pick stuff at the table, and then if you then they just go down in the rankings after that, and so whoever's 6th, 7th, 8th, they just go down, and each person comes up and picks something from the table. So it's kind of like everybody wins. Everybody gets to have Christmas, and there's all kinds of fun things. Like you got your Bloodthirster look-alike things here. You got all kinds of dragons, angels, just all big Terrorgeist kind of looking things. But yeah, also cool kinds of terrain. We've got orc terrain. We've got elf. We've got just citadels and stuff like that, and just a whole bunch of trees. You could just get a whole bunch of trees if you so chose. And so it was definitely hard to pick. And so what I won actually was player's choice for painted, which let's just say I'm not a great painter that has ever thought he would get such a thing, but because I did try and make sure I put a lot of effort into the basing to tell my story of my weird swampy goblins, I guess people were really drawn to that. And so every base I tried to have not maybe a story, but just like I really tried to bring out the theme as much as I could, and it was really nice that people really liked that. So yeah, thanks to all the players for voting for me, because then I got to pick what I wanted, and I believe I picked it's somewhere in there. Is it those wings? Or is it those wings? I picked it's pretty much Azhag the Slaughterer on Wyvern, but if the Wyvern was actually a really big, so it's a It's oh no, there's the wings. He's a bit lopsided, but I'll definitely correct him when I go to basing him myself. But yeah, he's this really cool orc riding a wyvern, and so that's going to be a wing slasher, you know, or Crudger on wing slasher, or Stormbringer on wing slasher. So yeah, it was a really cool model, but yeah, I was looking at all these other things, but I've already got Archfiends and stuff, so I don't need more demons, because I've already got one Archfiend that's Mantic and one that's just a Rakdos miniature from Magic the Gathering, so I just like, yeah, I don't need that. And there was some giants, and you know, now I'm thinking maybe I should have got some giants, but you know, something about just cool big dragons was really hard to turn down, so that's what I ended up grabbing. I grabbed the cool dragon, so now I've got two wing slasher like kind of models, because I got my Maw Crusher and now I've got that guy, so they don't really match, but it doesn't really matter. Wing slash is a very arbitrary term. So yeah, it was a great tournament, and that's my first ConVic. That's my first 2-day tournament in Victoria, but I've also I went to the Clash of Kings in Canberra, and yeah, I do like the 2-day tournaments. But yeah, once every 6 months is probably the maximum I can do these ones. The 1-day events are definitely easier to fit into the schedule, whereas this is really like you've got to, you know, set up your weekend. I took a day off the day before it, and then it happened to be my birthday, but I would have taken a day off the day after, just because otherwise you all the things that you normally need to do in a weekend as an adult get pushed to the sideline. So yeah, it's yeah, the 2-day events are definitely more difficult, but it's more satisfying getting all these games, and when you have those clear winners coming out, it's definitely less of luck and more like real player skill. Not that I was in ever contention for that, but you know, I can appreciate it. But yeah, otherwise hopefully you like this video, and I've got more battle reports to do, and hopefully we'll get to some more tournaments to do more of this kind of stuff. But then I have more videos just about showing off some of my army stuff that I'm doing, including these goblins. I will show them to you. But until then, yeah, everyone enjoy your Kings of War, keep battling, and yeah, like and subscribe. I should always say that. Bye!